Right. Hello, my name is Kaushik Dudakia,
And I'm Aaron Bordley.
and this is the internal demo of our app, MyMedicalRecord. So the agenda for this demo is first to just give an overview of what the app is. Then we're going to go over we're going to just talk about our sprint goals as well as our accomplishments, and then just a basic priority review of what we're going to do moving forward. Okay, so as an overview of the timeline, this demo is strictly about release one, which for us is about simple access. So before I get into that, just a little bit about the app. It is an app designed to get patients' medical records on the app so that they don't have to go from doctor to doctor, calling them, getting faxes over to get their own medical history. With this app, patients can have access to it right away at their fingertips simply by going on their phone. So for release one, we had three priorities: infrastructure, design, and security. And it was all about creating the database, allowing patients to create a user profile, have a basic limited design of what it would look like. Again, it's all about just simply having access to it and with basic security features. Aaron, I don't know if you want to take over for the next, for the goals.
Sure. So next we wanted to discuss sorry. Next we wanted to discuss our sprint goals. And our goals for the sprint were for release version 1 of the app was to create a simple access for our patients and customers. So when they, get on the app, they log in, we want it to be easy to use and user friendly. The next goal is to create a user profile page, and this would be in order for us to allow our customers the ability to access their medical record and self-services for common needs they may have using the app. So these services could include actually sending it immediately to their doctor or things like that. The next goal is to create a server database to store the medical records obtained from the EHR. So this would give us access to all of the databases, all of the information that we collected from the EHR. And initially, we would only get access from Epic EHR systems. The next goal would be to allow the platform to share information between devices and other outside users. So as I said before, sending it to your doctor or connecting it to another hospital or relatives. So we find that these things are important for us to accomplish to get the base level of what we need for the app to be successful. So the next thing we wanted to discuss is infrastructure. So infrastructure is the main point in developing an app. And our user story, one, is to allow records to enter into a database once the user links their medical record to the app. And the user story is to create a code that secures patient medical records. And the task for this would be to create a notification every time the record is added. So, this is important to establish just a history within a database of what transactions are happening for the patient's reference, as well as, if something were to happen and a technical difficulty, customer service and user experience can go through and look at what's going on in a patient's transaction.
All right.
Okay.
So in terms of design, we had three user stories. The first one was that the user can enter information to make a new account on the app. Story number two was the user can enter their username and password to re-enter the app. And story number 3 was that the user can access historical records and status of their request to retrieve or send medical records. So what we were able to accomplish for this sprint was the ability to add a login button on the main screen of the app so that they can access their own records. We also added an option for patients to stay logged in so that they wouldn't have to re-enter their information every time they were to use the app. And we also added an option in the event that a patient forgets their password, the ability to reset their password by simply clicking on the forgot password button. And again, in terms of design, what we accomplished was a very basic level of customization. We just wanted to make sure that the app was able to be produced and available for people to start using. And something we will be doing in the next iteration is customization. So this is just a basic overview of what we've done in terms of the design. So the last part we were working on was security and the ability to share information. So the user story for this was that the end user should have control over who can view their medical record. That is, after all, the reason why we created this app in the first place, is to have the ability for patients to have control over their own medical history. So what we were able to accomplish in terms of this story were the ability to add a share button so that they can easily send their medical information to doctors and different providers. And we also had multiple options, as I mentioned. You can send it via email, Bluetooth, text messaging, etc. So there's a variety of options. If there's a medical facility that prefers one method over the other, patients have the ability to choose which one works best. And what we were also able to accomplish was create an option to set a password for the receiving party to access the medical record. And this is, again, just to keep to make sure that the patient's information is secure and that no one can just simply gain access to it if they were to, say, send it to the wrong phone number or send it via Bluetooth to the wrong person. So patients have the ability to add a password, which we think is very important in terms of security and to make sure we're not violating any HIPAA regulations. So in terms of priority review, there's a couple of things that we're looking to accomplish in the next iteration of this product. And the first thing is cloud capabilities. So we want to make sharing data easier. So we believe that, and not only just sharing data, but also keep retaining the medical records by switching the medical records from being on a simple database to being on the cloud. We'll, one, be able to hold more medical records. Two, people will be able to access it much quicker. And three, it's just overall a lot easier. So that's going to be our first priority when looking at our next iteration. Number two is customization. We want to make sure that patients have the ability to add different things into their profile. Let's just say they want to add their prescription list. So we're going to be looking at how we're going to be able to give the ability for patients to put in their prescription drug list so that they can send it to a doctor if they're going, if they have not only a primary care doctor, but a cardiologist or a radiologist, etc. So people have the ability to customize different color options and things of that nature. And finally, data encryption. We want to increase our security. Something we've been discussing, before even our first iteration was the ability to use blockchain to encrypt our data. And that's something we're going to be looking to see how we can add it into our current system. It's going to be a slower process. Most likely not going to happen until the third iteration, but begin the process of coding that blockchain into our app. So that's something we're looking to do. Is there anything else you want to add, Aaron?
I was thinking about the customization piece, and it's really, it allows us, it allows our customers to, own their health. So we don't want to just be there to provide, the medical records, but another piece of, our vision is to allow, them to track, whether it be the number of steps they do in a day and things like that. So the customization would be geared toward the patient and or our customer, and how they want to use the app, how they want to better their health as well.
Yeah, definitely. All right, so that's basically our review for what we're looking to accomplish next. And I just want to say, I think we did very well in terms of separating our work but also combining our work. And I think if we just continue that into the next sprint, we'll be set pretty well.
Yeah, I agree. I think we did a great job of working together. One thing I know that is important when we move on is to maybe be a little bit more prepared as we go into our meetings and, bring more into discussion. I know for myself in particular, to, have added value, before we get to the meeting, and then, the meetings can be more productive and, things like that.
Yeah, 100%. All right, so that concludes our basic internal demo for our first iteration of our product, MyMedicalRecord. Thank you so much. All right, do you want to get into the retrospective? Aaron?
Oh, sorry, I was speaking on mute. I apologize. For the retrospective, we will be covering what we did only on the last iteration, and some of the things we didn't include in our previous presentation are things like our vision. So we took time to look at our vision and craft the vision, as well as we took time to look at some of the challenges we would face completing our project. And, and we looked at, as you can see, the versions and all of that and what our iterations would be. So as we go through our retrospective, it's important to embrace a positive spirit and know that we're always trying to improve, just trying to set the tone. It's important that we're always trying to improve, and there's always ways to make, that we can be better. And it's also good to be open-minded. There's a lot of things that we could change or do that, may go against the grain, but, have that open mind. And so I wanted to start off with saying, with asking what we did well. So I wanted to hear your feedback about that, and I can give mine as well.
Yeah, I think, as you mentioned, we worked really well together and, throwing ideas back and forth and then coming up with a consensus of what we think would work best for the app. I think that's something we did really well. Also, I think you mentioned it earlier, in terms of something we can probably improve on, is being more prepared for the meetings. Because sometimes we tend to not really, not that we don't understand, not know what we're doing, but we're just, it kind of delays our, thoughts and ideas, just because sometimes we're not necessarily prepared with the right ideas right away. We
Right.
get it eventually, but it takes some time sometimes. But otherwise,
Right.
I think we've been throwing ideas really well together back and forth, and then coming up with something that works.
Yeah, I agree. And I think another thing we do really well is communication.
Mm-hmm.
I know we talk over the phone multiple times usually, and as well as we text, to let you know, like, all right, what's going on, or, I just posted or whatever. So I think that's really helpful. And, since we are a telecommuting team. We're not face to face, and I think this was a discussion previously in one of our discussion boards for the class was, can you be agile while someone is not on site and not right next to you?
Mhm.
And we're improving that you can, and it's important to keep that communication alive and to keep the communication channels open in order for the team to be really successful. Yeah. So for me, what needs improvement is, like you said, that bringing more, as well as looking at the requirements a little bit more, and looking at what the rubrics and things are, just from, as we discussed, prior from our last, deliverable, we could have looked at, what the requirements were, maybe a little bit better in order to develop a better product. So, yeah.
I think what we could maybe do going forward is, something that we learned this week was prioritizing tasks based off of either a point system, sizing it by a point system, or using a time frame, and kind of seeing like what's of highest priority, and kind of maybe doing that first, and then taking the lower point items and kind of doing that last, or really figuring out what's most important first, and rather than kind of just doing whatever at any given time, so we can definitely try to like prioritize our tasks.
That's a really good suggestion. I like that a lot, because we both personally have a lot going on,
Right.
and then not only personally, but we have our work that we need to get done for this project. So prioritization is it's super important to the success, just so that our minds aren't really scattered and we can just have some focus. So yeah, I agree. That's great. So next we can go through our next steps. So what will we do? And look, we talked about some improvements we could be making. We talked about our successes. And so, for our next iteration, what will we be doing to make sure that we are solidified? And I think you made one great suggestion as to, prioritizing via timeline or priority level or whatever. That was a great suggestion. And we talked about getting to the, being more prepared for our meetings and committing to those stand-up times and communication.
Yeah, and I think just continuing with, I guess we, in some way we've had our own self-quality assurance in terms of, if I were to complete a task, I send it over to you, you review it, make edits,
Right.
you send me your work, I look over it. I think we can continue that as well, because I think that's been very helpful, having that self-review, or, well, not self-review, but, reviewing each other's work throughout the process every week.
Yeah, and I would say that's also maybe a challenge too. I mean, it's great to have a small team because we can be, kind of agile within just getting things to one another.
Right.
We can work amongst both our schedules a little bit better. But, it's always great to have a third eye and a third look at everything. And
Absolutely.
just, and another improvement is maybe being a little bit more skeptical as to what we're presenting. Is this the right communication? Is this the best way it should look? Things like that, having that skeptical eye. And the QA does that, it really does. But maybe we could do that a little bit more as well.
Yeah, I agree. Absolutely. Might make it a little bit easier going forward.
Yeah. So what we'll have next coming up that we'll be working toward is our second iteration, and that's going to include customization, design, and security. So it'll be great to focus on those things and working with you more.
Yeah, look forward to working with you again to do the next iteration.
Yeah, it
All
should be
right.
good.
Yep. All right. So I'm gonna stop now.